What's up, everyone? Coach D speaks here. So Republicans have a huge problem, and it's a problem that they created. And that problem is Donald Trump, of course. You see, Republicans allowed Donald Trump to go around the country deceiving people and lying to them about the election being stolen. And now many of them who are running for president are feeling the effects of that. Here's a video of Mike Pence at a campaign rally. He was confronted by a woman there who was asking him why he didn't send the presidential votes in 2020 back to the states. Check this out.
If it wasn't for your vote, we would not have Joe Biden in the White House.
Right.
Joe Biden shouldn't be there. And all those wonderful things that you and Trump were doing together would be continuing, and this country would be on the right path. Do you ever second guess yourself? That was a constitutional right that you had to send those votes back to the states. It was not like you were going to personally elect him. We all know by the number of votes that were there who won that election.
Okay, Mike Pence is a weasel and would make a horrible president, and I have no sympathy for him having to deal with ignorant voters at his campaign rallies. But the worst part about this is that we all know the answer to this. The answer that Mike Pence is going to give her is an answer that we have all heard ad nauseum. But unfortunately for these people, facts, evidence, truth don't stop them from believing a lie. And not just the lie that the election was stolen, but the lie that Mike Pence could have done anything different from what he did. And the reason he hears this over and over again is because Donald Trump is still repeating it. So listen to Mike Pence give the answer that we all already know.
Let me speak to the issue, because I think it's an issue that continues to be misunderstood. But I know by God's grace I did exactly what the Constitution of the United States required of me that day. I kept my own. Let me be very respectful of the question and tell you, look, states conduct our elections. You never want to let Washington, D.C. run elections. You certainly would never want one person in Washington, D.C. to decide who the President of the United States is.
You weren't deciding. You were just sending it back to the states.
Ma'am, let me explain it to you. States conduct elections. Iowa, where I live in Indiana. And after there were questions in a half a dozen or so states, we had reviews of the results, 60 different lawsuits that went to the courts. Where there are questions, there's two ways that they're reviewed. Number one is you take those issues to the legal process in the state for recount. Okay? Secondly, you take them to the courts, which we did very aggressively. At the end of the day, when Iowa certified your results and sent them to Washington, D.C., when Indiana certified our results, the Constitution of the United States, in Article 2, says the job of the Vice President is to serve as the presiding officer of a joint session where you open and count the votes. No Vice President in American history ever asserted the authority that you have been convinced that I had. And I want to tell you, with all due respect, I said when I announced, President Trump was wrong about my authority that day, and he's still wrong.
No vice president has ever asserted the authority that you have been convinced I have. Again, when Donald Trump was going around saying the election was being stolen, and all of us knew there were 60 court cases that had already looked into this and said that this is not the case, Mike Pence still allowed him to go around telling that lie. When Donald Trump was going around saying that Mike Pence didn't have the courage to send the votes back to the states, Republicans allowed him to say that even though they knew that the Constitution said differently. President Trump wasn't wrong. He was deliberately deceiving the American people. He knew it was outside of Mike Pence's authority, but he kept saying it because he wanted the mob to turn against Mike Pence. There's been many times during this stolen election lie that Donald Trump was aware that his data was wrong, but he continued to tell the lie, and Republicans allowed him to. And it's just so many times. And here's a little bit of a conversation between Donald Trump and his lawyers and Brad Raffensperger and his lawyers. And honestly, if you haven't listened to this entire hour conversation, you should. But here's a small part of it.
And the people of Georgia are angry. The people of the country are angry. And there's nothing wrong with saying that, that you've recalculated, because the 2,236 and absentee ballots, I mean, they're all exact numbers that were done by accounting firms, law firms, etc. And even if you cut them in half, and cut them in half again, it's more votes than we need.
Well, Mr. President, the challenge that you have is the data you have is wrong. We talked to the congressmen, and they were surprised, but I guess there was a person named Mr. Raynard that came to these meetings and presented data. And he said that there was dead people, I believe it was upward of 5,000. The actual number were two people that were dead that voted.
You see, here's where Trump and many of his supporters are exactly the same. Trump kept on saying, there's 5,000 dead voters in Georgia that voted. And they said, sir, we looked into that, we investigated, we only found 2 dead voters that voted in Georgia. And then later in the conversation, Trump would say, there were 5,000 dead voters voted in Georgia. He repeatedly did this over different topics throughout that conversation. Another time, he said that there was someone who stuffed ballots. They took ballots and put them in the machine 3 times each ballot. He claims there was 18,000 of these done by one person. They said to him, that's not true, but he kept trying to repeat it. Listen to that.
Magnified, and you can see everything. And she put, for some reason, they put it in 3 times each ballot. And I don't know why, but why? I don't know why 3 times. Why not 5 times, right? But yeah, go ahead.
You're talking about the State Farm video, and I think it's extremely unfortunate that Rudy Giuliani or his people, they sliced and diced that video and took it out of context. So the next day we brought in WSB TV and we let them see the full run of tape. And what you'll see, the events that transpired are nowhere near what was projected.
And he just continued to try to do this. He was told Rudy Giuliani sliced and diced that video and it misrepresented what actually happened during that time. But Trump continued throughout that conversation saying someone stuffed the ballot box 3 times per ballot. And they were just like, that's not true. And here's one more, where Trump tries to say that they were shredding ballots in Georgia. They were already shredding ballots. And the guy says that's not happening. And then he says, well, Dominion is trying to get rid of all their machines right now. And the guy's like, no, that didn't happen. And Trump continues to just question what this man is saying that they investigated. Listen to this video.
Now, do you think it's possible that they shredded ballots in Fulton County? Because that's what the rumor is. And also that Dominion took out machines. That Dominion is really moving fast to get rid of their machinery. Do you know anything about that? Because that's illegal.
This is Ryan, Germany. No, Dominion has not moved any machinery out of Fulton County. We're having
but have they moved? Have they moved the inner parts of the machines and replaced them with other parts?
No.
You sure, Ryan?
I'm sure.
I got to think these guys got off of that call and thought, what a freaking idiot. I can't believe we just had to go through that. I mean, he's like, that didn't happen, Mr. President. Are you sure? I'm sure that didn't happen. Are you really sure? I'm 100% sure that did not happen, Mr. President. And that happened throughout the call. So here's the deal. Mike Pence knew, Donald Trump knew, his family knew, his cabinet knew, his supporters, most of them know. They all know this is nothing but a lie, but they keep repeating it anyway. The only thing that's surprising to me is that more of them aren't sitting in prison being held accountable. So I hope every single one of them has to stand in front of these audiences of people who should know better, asking them these same dumb, horrible questions. And I can't wait until they see their day in court, and hopefully more of them are held accountable. Period.
Hey Midas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.